And you know who's good at organizing? Organized labor. Our unions. Next up, Jessica Tang, President of the American Federation of Teachers, Massachusetts.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Tang, and I am a middle school civics teacher, humanities teacher for the Boston Public Schools, former president of the Boston Teachers Union, and currently serving as the president of AFT Massachusetts, which represents over 25,000 educators pre-K through higher ed, and librarians, public service workers, and also healthcare workers as well. And as educators, we know when there's a bully, you must stand up and fight back. There is no other choice. And in education, we see what the bullies are doing. Over the past couple of days, over 13,000, half of the Department of Education employees were fired illegally. Yesterday, I talked to one of the US DOE, or US Ed, actually is what it's called, employees who works in the Office of Civil Rights. What do? They ensure that students who historically have been marginalized, students from protected classes, are given equitable education. Their whole department is gone. We know that that is important because historically, and again, as educators, we know this, as a history teacher, I taught this, Supreme Court decisions like the Brown versus the Board of Education existed for a reason. And those legacies have not gone away. In Massachusetts, we're looking at not just the cutting of important people who are overseeing and ensuring that our students everywhere are getting what they need, but the loss of funding to the tune of $287 million just here in Massachusetts. We're talking about $40 million just for Boston Public Schools. It comes in the form of a few different grants. One of them is called Title I. All that really means is that it's federal funding that helps low-income students. So if there's a district in Massachusetts that is serving low-income students, they are getting Title I funds. Another major source of funding is through the IDEA, which our Secretary of Education didn't know was the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And that serves millions of students, again, across the country who need to ensure that they have services. Special education teachers, OTs, PTs, etc. And their services are at risk. We're talking about VOTEC funding. We're talking about funding for before and after school programs. Reduced and free lunches, or free universal pre-K, or pre-lunch before school and during school. These are critical things that our schools need to be able to serve our students. And that's what's at risk. And it's not just pre-K through higher ed, it's also higher education that's under attack. You see what's happening just with trying to censor what universities teach. You see what's happening with the freedom of just thought on university campuses and the ability to protest. Those are all tied to an erosion of democracy. And the funding also that higher ed is facing too, NIH grants, those are literally grants that are funding life-saving research. And that's what's getting cut. And grants here in Massachusetts for that research, but also, again, tying it back to K-12, trying to fill the teacher shortage pipelines. We don't have enough educators in the first place, and they cut grants that are pipelines to get into teaching in Massachusetts. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about what's at stake, because sometimes when you hear, U.S. Department of Education, it sounds like some faraway building in D.C., but what it does has impacts in all of our neighborhoods, including here in Massachusetts. And there's a lot of misinformation too. Oh, well, can't they just, take the funding and it'll be okay, through block grants or something like that? No, because what happens if there's no oversight to how the funding is used, there's no guarantee that the money that is supposed to go to our low income, our special education, our multilingual learners, our most vulnerable students actually get that money. It enables them to actually use the money for privatizing public education, which again is the long-standing public sector that hasn't been privatized yet, right? And so, as educators, we see how all of these attacks are undermining democracy because public education itself, knowledge as a public good, is critical to democracy. And that's why authoritarian governments go after the educators in the higher education institutions and labor unions first. Because workers are organized. And so when we see the fights for the federal workers, when we see what's the cuts at all of the departments in our federal government, and when you see unions like AFGE and the Federal Unionist Network fighting back, it's because they are on the front lines of preserving democracy, as are educators and unions. So I have some kind of scary statistics to share, actually. So, if you're looking at the history of democracies across the nation, you'll see that in the last 30 years, democracies that backslide, only about 54% of them actually rebound. That's a sobering statistic, but that's something everybody needs to know. But the good news is that in 83% of the democracies that were able to rebound successfully and rebound even stronger, it was because labor and associations across multiple sectors were united in being able to fight back autocracy. And that is what we need in this moment. We need cross-sector solidarity, including workers across different sectors, seeing that our common fight is one and the same. So I'm asking all of you to reach out and help us to educate and activate everyone, because the number is 3.5% of our population that needs to be collectively in solidarity fighting a nonviolent civil disobedience and non-compliance in order to fight for, preserve our democracy, and make sure it rebounds stronger than it was before. And to get to that 3.5%, we need everyone educating everyone else about what's at stake. We cannot put our heads in the ground. The cuts will hurt everybody. And then again, in education, we see the cross-section of what happens when they take away funding from housing, from the Veterans Affairs, from Medicare. Medicaid is actually the 4th largest funding for public education. And make sure, that we have school nurses, transportation for our students who have medical issues. All of this is interconnected and intertwined. And we need to help everyone see what's happening. And that, again, we can't just fight in any individual sector, but even what's happening with USAID is destabilizing our families who have families in other countries. It is destabilizing democracy, not just here in the United States, but abroad as well. Again, all of these fights are connected, and it's cutting resources and services that regular, everyday people need in order to give tax breaks to billionaires and corporations. That is not what government is supposed to do. Government is supposed to serve the people. It is supposed to support the public goods, and it is supposed to make everyday working lives better, not worse. So again, I'm going to say, when you're a bystander, you are emboldening the bullies. We cannot be silent. We cannot be bystanders. We must continue to educate and activate and build the 3.5% that's necessary to win back our democracy and make it stronger. So, when I say, what do we do when democracy is under attack? You say, stand up, fight back. What do we do when democracy is under attack? Stand up! What do we do for being here.